Welcome back to the She Thrives Influential Women podcast. I'm your host, Lori Murphy. I'm an empowerment coach for women, a published award-winning co-author, as well as a public speaker. And this podcast is a platform that I created to be able to bring positive influence, motivation, inspiration into women's lives across the world. And for many of you that are joining for the first time, I encourage you to please subscribe to this channel, leave a review, share this message across the board. It gets this podcast growing and it helps get this message, spread faster around the world. And it just, keeps the mission alive. And a little bit about me, if you are new to this podcast, is that I have been sober now for 13 years, and I started my recovery from alcoholism in 2011, which really truly opened the doors to a path of healing and overcoming my own fears, crawling my way out of darkness and bringing light into my life, finding self-worth and self-love, and hearing my calling to guide women in their own journeys of self-discovery, healing, and, being able to help them live to their fullest potentials and thriving in their lives. I love what I do. It brings so much, wholeness to my heart, and I just want to continue to pass that along to others through this mission. So please subscribe and don't ever miss another episode. I love bringing other women on to share their stories, bring their insight, bring their positive influence and inspiration. Like my latest and most, I'm so excited to introduce her. This is Sharmeen. Sharmeen, she is the founder of My Aligned Life. And what Sharmeen is, most, how should I say this? Her her expertise and her area of knowledge is in spiritual and somatic movement. She coaches women in their own personal journeys with teaching them how movement is, healing through her own experience of developmental trauma growing up and complex trauma as an adult. Sharmeen has a deep understanding of how trauma can shape our lives. She uses her work to be able to help heal, to help women, grow and thrive. And, she's also a mother of two brilliant boys, and she has had a wonderful husband for over 20 years. And she's just a joy. And I'm going to just bring her on now and have her tell you more about her and just, share her journey. Hi, Sharmeen.
Hi, Lori. Thank you so much for having me on.
Oh, I'm so happy to have you here. We literally were just talking for 30 minutes before we hit the record button. So I just know we have so much to share.
Yeah, I love having a chat with you.
I
And
know.
the
I'm like,
time flew by.
I know. I'm like, I should have just hit the record button.
It's all good.
So tell us a little bit more about who you are, where you're from, and how you got into this work that you are doing.
Yeah, absolutely. So I grew up in and out of poverty in Canada, and my dad owned a business, and so it was up and down much of our lives. And with
Mhm.
poverty comes a lot of other challenges. My parents were both very young, and so they did the best that they could with the tools that they had.
Mhm.
And looking back, they just didn't have the emotional resilience and some of the tools that parents really need to have in order to nurture and grow competent adults, right?
Mhm.
And so I was an early childhood educator for 19 years. I've always been interested in human development and the why we do things that we do.
Mhm.
In fact, I was the teenager, literally at 12, 13, staying at home watching documentary after documentary on feral children and their language development and just wild things like this. And then once I had children of my own,
Mhm.
I realized that you can have all the knowledge of child development in the world, and you can have
Right.
all the tools to actually teach children, but the imprints on your own upbringing, the way that your family um, values, disciplines, teaches, all of those things is really ingrained in who you are. And
Hmm.
unless we bring that into consciousness and unless we actively try to change that,
Sure.
it's very easy to fall into those patterns. For example, my mom used to lecture me, and I call it word vomit. So I would get lots of word vomit, yelling and blah 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 blah, things that I wouldn't even understand. And I found as I was raising children that I started doing that to them.
Hmm.
And even though there was like this little voice in my mind saying, stop talking, that's stupid. Why are you saying that? These are young children. They're, just stop it. I didn't have the access to stop it.
Right.
And yeah, so it was really, really interesting that when I started moving my body, when I started getting more connected to the body, during those moments of word vomit, when that little voice came inside that said, Sharmeen, stop doing that. This is not the parent you want to be. I was actually able to stop.
Hmm. Mm.
And so movement and the body really started becoming more interesting to me. Why was this happening?
Hmm.
Why was I all of a sudden able to regulate my emotions once I was able to do a push-up, for example?
Right.
Was the connection. And that's what really drove my inquisitive mind, if you will, my deep, deep search for why.
Hmm.
To all the trauma books, all of the courses, and to the point where I left my career as an early childhood educator to pursue spiritual and somatic healing for
That's
women who are
awesome.
on this healing journey.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's awesome. So it's really inspired by your children and essentially being the parent that you truly wanted to be and knew that you were, knowing that, hey, this isn't right, and I want to be able to change that. So they inspired you that to that door opening of this new career path. And when you got to that point of being ready, you quit your job and decided to study. You had mentioned in your bio the name of the program that you utilized. Where did you go to get your certifications?
So I have been certified in a lot of different movement modalities, movement for trauma, Aldoa, Pilates, lots of different therapeutic movement modalities that are focused on the physical.
Yeah.
And with my experience, as we unravel and as we become stronger in our physical and more aligned in the physical body,
Hmm.
the thought process shifts and changes. So
Right.
I was a yes person. I was a people pleaser. And to a certain extent, I still am, just
Hmm.
shifted in its intention. And so saying yes to everybody, being a people pleaser, having very, very little self-confidence. When I started to feel that core strength within my physical body,
Hmm.
I could no longer tolerate some of the negative, toxic, almost abusive things that were happening at work as an early childhood educator with the supervisory team and the management team and those kinds of things.
Mm.
And it really took this mental breakdown of me not being able to function at work and then being so capable and feeling so powerful when I was moving my body, when I was in the studio and those kinds of things, that the disconnect was so vast, right? It was like it was like split personality disorder for almost like a year.
Right.
Um, yeah. And so really I was pushed into the I was actually shown the power of movement, the power of unraveling trauma from the body because in a movement class, in a movement session, I actually experienced more than once
Hmm.
an emotional release. So I would start crying. I was doing a push-up one day in a full group fitness class, by the way. So it's like a full class. And I'm at the front and we're doing push-ups and tears start streaming down my face.
I've
And
had that
my
happen.
Have you? So I'm okay, great. I'm not alone. So my the fitness instructor, the instructor of the class, she looks at me, Sharmeen, are you okay? And I'm like, big smile on my face, tears coming down. And I said, I'm not upset. I'm actually very impressed and very happy that I can do these real push-ups, not the modified push-ups. But what ended up happening is more and more of those releases started happening to me. And at one point, I was in a spinal decompression class, and I'm sitting there with my hands up, and I'm working really, really hard, all twisted up, and I can see in front of me like a movie,
Hmm.
traumas from the past, just playing, and I'm
Ah,
crying.
yes. That I've had that same experience.
Isn't that amazing? And so for me, I was like, what happened to me? Like, what is going on? And this one particular class, it was a Sunday, I couldn't stop it. And it was just so big that I had to leave the class. And thank goodness my friend was in the class with me. She came into the private room and threw all of the really heavy, like yoga blankets on me,
Yep.
trying to like help calm me down.
Yeah.
I was ventilating, like really, really crying to the point that 2 hours went by and my husband calls me on the phone. He's like, are you coming back from your class? Like, it's
When are
Sunday
you coming home?
afternoon. I said, I'm a big mess. And I was like, I can't drive right now. Anyway, Sunday, I ended up going home. I was a mess. You know Eeyore from Winnie the Pooh, where he's got this
Yes.
cloud over his head? And he's like,
Yes.
oh, I was Eeyore for 2 days straight. Wednesday morning, I woke up. My feet don't touch the ground. I have a smile, face to like cheek to cheek, so, so big. And I remember going into work and I told my teaching partner, my room partner, I said, Nicole, my cheeks are hurting. I don't know why I'm so happy, but I'm so happy. And my cheeks hurt from smiling so much. And that's when I really said, what happened to me? Why is it that Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, I felt like the world was going to end?
Hmm.
And I was scared of literally falling back deep into the depression that I thought I was over after,
Hmm.
being in a good marriage and all of that stuff. And that's when I went in and I found out that I had released trauma from my body, but it had
Yes.
happened too much, too fast, all in one shot with no parameters and no other expert in trauma to help ease the process. So my body got overwhelmed, which is why it took 3 days for it to integrate. And then the third day, I felt like I was high all day
Yeah.
because it just wasn't done in a safe, slow manner. So now,
Right.
with all of the experience and the learning and the workshops and the certifications and all of that, when I'm supporting women to release some of these big experiences that they've had and they've held on to in their bodies, I'm really careful that we do it nice and slow and controlled and resourced. So we're not having those big breakdowns for days at a time.
Sure. And when we
Mhm.
have intense emotions like that and they're being released, it's almost like the what you described, like the few days that that cloud, that Eeyore, um, the way I've described it, even with myself, it's like an emotional hangover because it really just takes the wind, it just takes you down, because those emotions and that release is so intense. And because you had all of this trauma that you just basically released. Yeah, I could see how that was just like it really, definitely impacted you in that type of way. And, now you're able to say, okay, I'm not going to, when you're guiding your clients, you're not letting them go down that same path. You're helping them release more gradually. And so it's not overwhelming because
Exactly.
because my experience with releasing trauma, healing from trauma, it was exhausting and I was doing it gradually.
Yeah. It's a process. And I tell clients often when they come to me and say, okay, I've got this and I want to release that, I'll say, are you ready for, pardon my language, but are you ready for shit to hit the fan? Because when we tell universe, when we set the intention that I want to heal from being angry,
Hmm.
when we tell the universe, I want to heal from being so angry with life, what's going to happen is that we're going to get triggered
Hmm.
more often
Yep,
to be angry. And then we get to choose how we're going to respond in those moments.
exactly.
So I always say, like, if we want to clear something up, and I equate it to, this might be a little gross for some of your listeners, but um, I equate it to having a stomach ache after eating a lot of birthday cake. You had 3 slices of birthday cake, your stomach is hurting, and you're just like, ugh. When that birthday cake is being regurgitated out, it doesn't taste like casserole. It tastes like birthday cake.
Ugh.
Right? It tastes like birthday cake,
That's
chewed
a
up
good way to
birthday cake.
put it, though, because it's true.
So when we want to release our hatred, our jealousy, our pain, our anger, our hurt, on the way out of our system, there's a little bit of feeling it. There's a little bit of tasting
Hmm.
that birthday cake. And so that's when it becomes really, really helpful to have a person or a practitioner like yourself or myself and someone to hold us during that period, right? To
Yeah.
be like, listen, it's not a full birthday cake.
Yes.
It's just, it's coming out. It's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I try to guide my clients into reminding them to give themselves grace and to acknowledge that what they're experiencing. Um, it was important, like I said, like I went through my own experience with trauma healing and I did EMDR. And like you said, like you would be working out and the tears would just be pouring. And I'd go to the gym and I'd be fine when I got there, but like very similar to you, like the things would just be resurfacing and playing through my mind, and I would just tears would just come out. I would just be
Mhm.
crying, but I'd be like, I'm okay. Or going hiking with friends. We'd go hike
Mhm.
up mountains, and I had this amazing support group, with my friends. Like they've all been through it. They all went through their own healing journeys. So I had that safety net, right? Where I
Mhm.
could go and share with them what I was going through with my EMDR therapy and what was coming up for me. And so many times just hiking up the mountain, there would be times I'd get to the top and I would just cry. And
Yeah.
there was one time I remember crying up the mountain and sobbing on the way down. And they welcomed me with open arms and allowed me to have that space to be able to just release it,
How beautiful. How
you know?
beautiful. And I have to say, Lori, that's so unique as well to have a group of friends that are on the healing journey that allow and welcome that emotional release and hold that space for you.
Yeah.
I think that's so powerful, and you're so
Yeah.
blessed to have
I know.
that.
And that's what I want to be able to provide for other women, the women I work with, is give that's the space I give them. Like, this is your safe space, and you're allowed to come here and feel whatever you want to feel, say whatever you want to say, to be able to release whatever those emotions are, because it's important, because we have a tendency to just suppress things, right? Somewhere
Absolutely.
along the way, somebody told us that not to feel it, get over it, you know what I mean? Stop
Mhm.
crying and. And it's
You're
like,
fine.
and then you associate crying with weakness and being bad, but it's actually healing and very freeing and complete it's our body's, natural default structure to release intense emotions.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I say that, when we're holding on to these negative emotions or what we perceive to be a negative emotion,
Hmm.
our connective tissue, the fascia of the body,
Hmm.
it actually becomes really tangled, hard, dry, and it becomes what your massage therapist might say, a knot, right? And
Yes.
it's a tangled ball of yarn in your body. And when we tap into the emotions, when we release the emotions, we actually untangle that knot, right?
Hmm.
And we find that freedom not only in our body,
Hmm.
but in our thought process, in our mind, in the way that we are being. I had a client who said, whenever I whenever I make space in my body, whenever I create space in my body, I create this fluidity and flexibility in my mind as well.
Hmm.
And for her, she had um this person coming to visit her. It's like a extended family, and it was causing a lot of stress. She didn't trust this person, didn't want this person in her home, and it's just very interesting. Then we did some movement and we opened up the body as we do, right? We opened up some of the joints in the body. And by the end of the session, it was like, I'm judging this person for past things. And it's only like 12 hours that they're going to be in my house. I can handle that, And it
Hmm.
was like night and day from I don't want her in my house to it's only 12 hours. I can handle it.
Yeah. So my question is, and curiosity, I should say, is what is the science, right? Like, what exactly? Because it's like, okay, well, yeah, movement helps, but how? Like, what is it actually, like, what is the science behind it? You know what I mean?
Oh, I love science questions.
Me
So,
too.
and there's so many different angles we could come at it. So physically, the connective tissue, when we explored the human body in science, scientists would cut through this connective tissue to find the muscle and cut through the connective tissue to learn about the stomach and the
Hmm.
organs. They would just cut through all of this connective tissue without a thought until somebody said, why are we just cutting through this? Like, why don't we map it out and see where is it going? What is it doing? And they found, I think it's like 8 to 10 different lines of fascia, so that connect from literally like the tips of your fingers to the tips of your toes, and everything is wound and connected. But what they've also found is that this fascia holds on to our memories. And that on a cellular level, so we think of the mind, when I say mind, we all think synonymous with brain.
Hmm.
And we all think mind is in the head. But when you look down at the cellular piece of it, each cell has a membrane around it.
Hmm.
Now, this membrane, and going down to beginning of evolution when we were all like just a protoplasm, a little cell.
Hmm.
The membrane around the cell, it moves towards things that are life affirming: food,
Hmm.
water, love, health, shelter. And it contracts and moves away from things that are not life affirming: poisons, you know, ice, if depending on the protoplasm, right? Different things that will kill that protoplasm.
Hmm.
It'll contract and move away from. So on a cellular level, we expand and we move towards that which is life affirming. And when you think of emotions like happiness, love, joy,
Hmm.
they're all open arm, expansive feelings, right? And
Right.
emotions. But when you think about hate and anger and jealousy, we kind of come in and we kind of contract our bodies.
Hmm.
So this process, if you're holding on to hate and you're got this contraction in your body, it's pulling on the fascia. It's pulling on the different lines of fascia. So we might have a left hip hike
Yep.
because something's going on the right shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
So as we, and this is what I found with my own experience, especially, is as we unwind and we stretch out and we have healthier fascia, it is moist, it is moving, it is sliding and gliding, then our emotional health is directly correlated to that fascial health.
Okay.
So that's from a physical point of view.
That's very
Then,
interesting. That's very
right?
interesting.
Yeah.
Now, one of the things like I noticed, like, so if we're carrying a lot of pain, like we're suppressing emotions and we're
hmm
carrying this heavy weight on us, it affects our bodies in the sense of if you're neck pain, leg pain, arm pain, maybe even increased menstrual cramps.
hmm
I feel there's a correlation from suppressed emotions and how it's affecting, our muscles and our joints. Would you say
100%.
that would you say that that's, very true?
Very, 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 very true. What I've learned through energetics, emotional exploration, and you did EMDR, I'm certified in EFT, emotional freedom tapping.
Mm-hmm.
And the science behind the two is that EMDR and EFT have the same rate of success with very similar amount of sessions, and the longevity of success for clearing um, is very, very similar. So with all of that, the body the physical body is a manifestation of our emotional and mental well-being.
Mm-hmm.
So you can always tell how a person is emotionally, mentally, by the way that their physical body is presenting itself. And
Okay.
when we look at conductors, you look at the life of conductors, they have the highest um life, what is it? Like they can work until they're 90.
Yeah.
Why is that?
I feel like it's because a lot of the movement, right? Like they keep because like I've seen this I actually have patients in the dental office that I work in. I work in a specialty that revolves around prosthodontics, which is, dentures, fixed
Mhm.
appliances, things like that. And we have a lot of older patients, and there are some that'll come in that are in their 90s, and you would never know it. They
Yep.
look like they are maybe 10 to 15 years younger. I had one woman who came in, she still cooks Thanksgiving dinner for her entire family. She's still, you know, doing, X, Y, and Z. She's very active. She's very independent. And it's because she's taken very good care of herself and she's always kept moving.
hmm
She doesn't
hmm
sit for long periods of time watching TV. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like it's so I find that there's a lot to do with that because I think she's, obviously wasn't sustain like holding things in, I guess, so to
Exactly.
speak.
And if you ask her family, they probably will describe her as somebody who speaks her mind. You always know how,
Yeah.
Nona is feeling because
Mhm.
Nona will tell you. And the reason why she's still, so active at 90 is because she's not holding on. Her tissues are not holding on to all of those grievances from the past,
Sure.
right? The reasons why conductors can work until they're 90 is because they are surrounded by happiness. They
Mm.
are doing what they love, first of all.
Yes.
So, first of all, they're doing what they love. And when you do what that you love, you never work a day in your life. That is very, very true.
Oh yeah.
And I can attest to that. And I'm sure you can too, right? When we're working with clients, sometimes I forget to eat because I'm so nourished by
Yes.
the interaction.
Exactly. And it's like, but you feel good. Like I always say, and I've said this to my husband, like it's not work to me. It's the
Exactly.
doing this podcast, not work.
Exactly.
Working with
Isn't yeah,
clients isn't work. It fuels my body with so much joy, positivity, and it's really like nurturing my soul.
exactly. Exactly. And it's the same with conductors. And one, they're in their zone of genius. They're happy. They're in that state of the vibrational frequency of joy.
Hmm.
Number two, they're around music. And the because we're all energy, our bodies are energy, we're literally vibrating very slowly so that we can have mass,
Yeah.
right? But we're all energy. And so when you're around energy of music and you have this
Mm.
beautiful music playing, that resonance helps our body stay in alignment. So you'll see conductors very rarely will they be sick. Very rarely will they have like hip replacements, right? These kinds of things because the energy of the music, the resonance of it, their body syncs up to that. And so if you're
Okay.
constantly every day syncing up to, your alignment with music and with moving your body,
Hmm.
you're gonna live a long, healthy, vibrant life.
Yeah. I love
Yeah.
that.
And who is it? Um, the Pilates instructor, Joseph Pilates. He says, you're only as young as your spine is flexible.
That's a good way of saying it. I never would think of it that way.
And I have to agree 110% with that because what I found from being very stiff in my body, like I
Hmm.
would used to call myself a refrigerator, like a walking refrigerator, couldn't dance, just not very fluid.
Right.
To becoming fluid and like having more decompressing the spine and having more mobility through the spine. I literally get carded now. I'm 42. I get carded to go to, people think I'm 21.
Isn't it great?
It's
I always
fantastic.
say, bless your heart.
I know.
Bless you. It would
I
be.
got carded by somebody who I could be their mom. I'm like, I'm double your age.
Did
And
you
he's like,
just
no
want to hug
way.
them and be like, "Mm, love you"?
Thank you so much. So the fountain of youth really is in the spine. It really, really is. I will stick to that.
Yeah.
You know, yeah. I also wanted to say something. You had said something about somebody taught us to suppress our emotions
Yes.
and to only look at the good and suppress all the bad emotions.
Hmm.
And I wanted to say that I think it's a misinterpretation of the law of attraction
Yes. Yes.
because when we actually release the emotions, when we look at and release the negative emotions,
Hmm.
that's what frees us to be able to focus on the positive.
Right.
If we're burying the negative, anytime that we say something like an affirmation, because we are burying and not um, being so honest with ourselves about what that negativity is,
Hmm.
we're actually indirectly reinforcing the negative,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I had a client once who said, Charmaine, I've been saying my affirmations every single day and nothing is happening. I said, okay, what affirmations are you saying? And she said, okay, well, I say every single day, I say money flows to me easily and effectively. And I said, okay, what you're reinforcing with that stuttering with the body is telling you is I don't believe a single thing I'm saying,
Yep.
right? And so you're
Hmm.
reinforcing that disbelief of the words you're trying to say.
Yes. Yeah. Because there's something about because our brains can't really decipher. against what's reality, like what's really happening and what isn't. And this is where like that law of attraction and the affirmations will come in. So if we're telling ourselves confidently, you know, I am, money flows freely to me, I am abundant financially, abundant with love. If you're telling your, even if this isn't where you're at in life right now, like you're struggling financially, you're in you have relationships around you that are not healthy, but you're constantly telling your mind that in a confident way, the your brain doesn't know any different.
Hmm.
Does that make sense? Your
Yeah,
brain,
absolutely.
it's almost like your brain's just like, oh yeah, that's true. And then,
Exactly.
and because of that, that's why it makes it easy. It retrains everything for you to believe that.
Yes. It's very true. I'm not just saying that it's not true. It's very,
Right.
very true.
But there's a
And
key component to all of that too, which I'm interested to hear, your knowledge on that.
yeah, so for me, it's like it's this. The brain doesn't know the difference between a real and perceived threat or a
Hmm.
real and you know what we're creating,
Correct.
right? An affirmation. However, or rather not however, and the body is you can think of the body as being almost separate from the brain in
Hmm.
this aspect. It isn't, but just in a sense. The body has to be on board with the message that you're trying to train your brain to reprogram. So
Hmm.
if you're saying, if you have back pain, for example, and you say, I am completely healthy and I have no pain in my body, and your body is screaming because you've got this back pain,
Hmm.
you're not only just canceling each other out and going to stay in the same place, but you're actually reinforcing that back pain. And that's where I feel like when we acknowledge first, I have back pain,
Hmm.
right? And
Hmm.
we acknowledge I have back pain, and maybe we do some tapping around it, maybe we do some movement around it, not with the idea of getting rid of the back pain,
Hmm.
but with the intention and the curiosity of where is this back pain coming from? What is the back pain
Right.
trying to tell me?
Right.
What's held with this in this back pain? What chakra is being blocked when depending on where the black pain is, right? If we have a back
Yes.
upper back right behind the heart, then the heart chakra, all of the things that the heart chakra is connected to is affected. If we
Hmm.
have back pain at the lower back, maybe it's our sacral, maybe it's our root chakra, right? And so that's how I look at things, where it's like, yes, we can, the brain is very powerful.
Yes.
But the brain is not the only system that has to be on board in order for these affirmations and the law of attraction to actually work.
Right.
And every single path that I have taken, from the body trauma healing, emotional healing, consciousness expansion, every single thing that you cannot pass to the
Hmm.
next level until you address the emotions.
Sure.
That's just what it is. And it's like the body has a lot to say because it houses all of our emotions
Oh,
and it
yeah.
tells us how we feel.
Hmm. Wow.
Hmm.
Yeah. That's that is very, very, very interesting. And I'm over here like, yeah, that makes so much sense. Because
Doesn't
I've
it?
done that.
Because
I have done that where it's been like, I know like there's a chakra that's blocked, right? Like, because I can
Mhm.
feel it, especially if it's in the lower back or the or like my upper back or
Mhm.
a headache, right?
Yep.
Or something like that's the eye,
Mhm.
the third eye. I know that there's something blocked because if
Mhm.
I can't, I could sit there and say all the affirmations I want, right? But like you said, if it's something that's blocked, it's going to be very hard for the two to connect.
Exactly. Exactly. And I also like I don't want to scare people, but it's also a little bit of a be cautionary tale, right? Because
Hmm.
there are so many activations and meditations and paths that tell you we can open up your third eye so you can manifest with ease. Great, that's wonderful if you're at that space.
Yeah.
But if all the chakras below the third eye are like pinched garden hoses
Yeah.
holding on to all of these things, opening up your third eye can actually be dangerous to have energy flow through that space
Mhm.
because it does have to pass through all the other chakras. It's a natural flow of Kundalini energy. It flows in a natural way. So you cannot safely open up the third eye without doing the work below.
That's amazing. And the sonomic movement, the work that you do, opens
Mhm.
all of that.
Yeah, it helps us to feel our experience from inside of the body.
Hmm.
So we know that most people know that the nervous system is constantly checking for safety.
Hmm.
We have all around our face, we have these nerves that pick up information from other faces. So we can tell
Hmm.
if a face is upset and we can tell if a face is happy and safe
Yeah.
from birth, right? We have
Yep.
this ability. The nervous system is constantly doing that. It's checking for the internal environment for safety and it's checking for the external environment for safety.
Right.
And with somatic movement, we're going into the internal environment to see how is the body responding or what is the perception in this moment
Mm.
from the internal and external. And what I found was we know internal mirrors the external, right? When people are being mean to us, like my ex-boss and supervisor, when they're being mean to us, it's because part of the reason is we have an internal voice and an internal program that is being mean to us. And
Mm.
we're just getting that mirrored to us from the external,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
How many people have you, and I'll ask you this, how many people have you worked with, right, that don't even know that they're being mean to themselves?
Yeah. I think I can,
Everyone, right? Me
yeah. I've done it. You know?
too.
Yeah. There's like
My
this
first,
subconscious little voice that wants to tell you that, you're not good enough, you're not capable,
don't
you're
try
not
that. Don't take
smart enough.
that risk. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, don't
Don't
do
take that
that.
risk. You're gonna look stupid. That was my voice.
Yeah.
She was constantly like, no, 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 Sharmeen, you're gonna look stupid. You're gonna look, don't do that. And I was so afraid of looking stupid
Yeah.
that I wouldn't do anything.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, you know what? Yeah, I can make mistakes. I'm safe to make mistakes. It's okay if other people don't agree with me. They all have their own views and perceptions. And
Yep.
somebody's knowledge and experience and learned um, courses or whatever that they've taken will might be
Yeah.
different from mine. And that's okay,
Yeah. And
right?
and the thing is that in my experience, just in like my 23-year career in dentistry, like I know for me, my experience is I have worked for some real bullies and have worked with some real bullies who have been mean and nasty, but I feel like some of the things that they said was just stuff that I thought about myself, right? Or like even recently with my business, I was in a place of discouragement. Sometimes when I am PMSing and already in a place where my emotions are heightened or my anxiety or stress is heightened, I may get a little discouraged. And I was reading this email from a business coach that came into, and I never read their emails, but I read this one about a program, and one of the things they said is, well, if you're not getting all these clients, then it's probably because, people don't believe that you can help them with their problems, so they don't want to work with you. And I remember being like, oh my God, maybe people don't trust me. Maybe people don't want to work with me. Maybe I'm really not that good. Maybe this, maybe that. And it's like, go back and read the reviews from the people that have worked with you
Yeah.
and you have that have had success with you. Like there was a little voice in my head that was going off on this. It was in a discouraging place where, you know what I mean? I
Hmm.
was thinking that about myself. And then I read it that just kind of was like a seed that was being watered by this. And the thing is that like, this email wasn't personal. It wasn't directed at me. It was an email blast. I'm subscribed to the emails. It had nothing to do with me personally, but I
Hmm.
personalized it because of where I was at mentally and emotionally. And I,
Exactly.
it's like,
Yeah.
it's like, Lori, you know for a fact that that's not true.
Yeah, exactly. But the thing is that, and then I always tell people, our emotions win every time.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, they do.
The emotion is the winner every time. We can know everything in here. In fact, almost everyone listening to this knows that they need to drink eight glasses of water a day, move their body 30 minutes a day,
Yep.
and eat nutritious whole foods.
Yep.
Some people might be sitting here listening to all of that saying, yeah, I know, but I haven't drank water, moved, and I'm eating a burger right now, right?
Yes.
And that's okay. But it's like we know this, but our emotions will always, always, always win
Yeah.
over a logical decision that we want to make
True. Very true.
until we get a handle on our emotions,
Yes.
right?
Yep.
And what is really, really helpful, I find, is one, of course, looking at the emotions and not hiding from them anymore. But the other thing, a little mind hack is look for the positive. So I've started teaching my kids this, where my son came home, he had 9 out of 10 on his math test. And he goes, look,
Mm-hmm.
mom, it's one wrong. So he pointed at the one question number 6, which was wrong. And I said, oh, interesting. Look at question number 1. You got that right. You got that right. So instead of looking at the wrong one, I started looking at all the ones he got right. Because our brain, right, will look for what we teach it.
Yep.
And if we know that it's naturally, our brain and our body is naturally wired to look for safety because protoplasm contracts and
Mm-hmm.
expands. So it's constantly doing that.
Yep.
But that's what it's wired to do to keep us alive,
Yep.
is to look for threat and to contract away from it.
Absolutely. Yep.
We are
Wow.
not living in caves anymore. We don't have this imminent threat as much as we always did. And so now we get to focus on the expansion part of it. So we focus on all the right answers. We focus on all the good things. And then we set some time aside to look at the thing that we did wrong
Yep.
and find ways and practice. That's the key, right? Shit's gonna hit the fan. We got to
Mm-hmm.
practice being a different way.
Yeah.
Practice that. Yeah.
I love it. So you have a special offer that you'd like to offer the listeners today. And what is that offer?
So I have a full body tension release for everybody. Um, and so it is a 19-minute full body tension release sequence. It's a
Mm-hmm.
video that you follow along.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a combination of somatic movement as well as spinal decompression, kind of all weaved together to help us actually feel relaxed in our body. Because one of the things with living in this modern day is that we have forgotten what it feels like not to be stressed. We have forgotten what true relaxation feels like because even when we're doing Netflix and chill and scrolling through socials, we're actually not relaxed, right? We
Right.
were talking earlier. We
Yeah.
could be scrolling through socials getting all anxious because of what we're watching.
Oh, that's a whole nother podcast episode. Don't get me started.
Yeah.
The
So
rabbit holes.
the rabbit holes, and they get us our bodies tighten up and we get all tense.
Yep.
But we don't realize that when we relax, what does that feel like again? What does
Yes.
that full body, deep relaxation actually feel like in our body? And then we can build up on top of that.
Awesome. So yeah, what I'll be able to do is I'll put all of that in the description as well. How can people contact you to take advantage of this awesome offer?
Awesome. Yeah, I'll make sure I have the give you the link to share in the description.
Hmm.
You can also find me on Facebook as Aligned Sharmeen, with my company being My Aligned Life. Aligned Sharmeen is how you can find me on Facebook and all
Amazing.
other platforms.
Awesome. Yes, and I will put all of that in the description of the episode. But unfortunately, as much as I hate to say it, but we are out of time. Uh,
All
thank,
right.
thank you so much, Charmeen, for coming on and, hanging out with me today and sharing all of this useful and insightful information. Um, I know for me, I absolutely would love to be able to, utilize some of the work that you do because, we all could benefit from this kind of work.
Thank you, Lori.
And
Thank
you
you so
just have, and your energy is just, it's infectious, it's contagious, like it's just there. So I highly recommend everybody take advantage of the offer and
thank you
work
so
with Charmeen.
thank you so much, Lori. It's been
Yes,
such a pleasure. And
it's
I
such a
think
pleasure.
this is a proof of the law of attraction because like goes to like, and I feel the same
Absolutely.
way about you.
Absolutely. I love it. Oh, and I just love you.
I love you too.
And if anybody would like to connect with me, if there's any way that I could be a guide in, your journeys, please contact me. You can find me on Facebook under Lori A. Murphy, Empowerment Coach for Women. I'll also put my email and other social links in the comments or in the description as well. I'd love to connect with you. Thank you so much. And until next time, let go of fear and let your spirit shine.